All right, so if you don't know me, I'm William Roca. I'm the new Director of Programs at Village Preservation. So before I do the whole Village Preservation spiel, how many of you are members? Thank you. You're my favorite people. The rest of you, I am very ashamed of you. So we will have some literature, so as you're heading out, think about becoming a member, because I'm going to tell you why here in a second. All right, so here at Village Preservation, we've been documenting, celebrating, and fighting for the preservation of Greenwich Village, the East Village NoHo, since 1980. We work to expand and extend landmark and zoning protections, stop inappropriate development, while also encouraging appropriate development in our neighborhoods. We've secured landmark designation for over 1,250 buildings and zoning protections for nearly 100 blocks. And we host about 75 free programs like this a year, so that's why it's important to become a member. So we hope you'll join us for future programs. On Thursday, we have a plaque unveiling, so please take a look at the website for that. That's on Thursday evening. And our events cover a wide range of topics focused on history, architecture, culture of Greenwich Village, East Village, NoHo, and the important role of historic preservation. And we look from the role for everything from small businesses, which we're going to kind of be covering today, to independent cultural institutions, civil rights, social justice movement, great artists, writers, musicals, dancers, and other connected to the creative legacy of our neighborhoods. A lot happens here in our neighborhoods, that's what I'm trying to say. So we are a member-based organization. That's how we're able to provide all of these programs for free. As a member, you're always going to get advance notice, so I very much hope you do decide to become a member. I've got membership pamphlets and stuff, so before you leave, just come and see me. But now I'm delighted to introduce this evening's guests. James and Karla Murray are a husband and wife architectural interior photographers and multimedia artists based here in New York City. For over 25 years, they focused their lens on the streetscape through the portraits of storefronts and shop owners, and have strived to capture moments of city life that have often gone undocumented, but capture the spirit, energy, and cultural diversity of our individual neighborhoods. They've made it their mission to thoroughly document the unique mom and pop stores, which are sadly disappearing, when they began to notice the alarming rate which these shops were disappearing. Their critically acclaimed book, which they're going to be speaking about tonight, Storefront NYC, photographs of the city's independent shops, past and present, but also their other books include Storefront, The Disappearing Face of New York, New York Nights, and Storefront 2, A History Preserved and Broken Windows, Graffiti NYC. Their 2008 book, Storefront, was cited in Book Forum's December-January issue, 2015 issue of one of the exemplary art books from the past 2 decades. So heralded as one of the period's most successful New York books. New York Nights was the winner of the prestigious New York Society Library's 2012 New York City Book Award, and we hope that this book wins many more awards.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got a lot to cover, and it looks like our slideshow is working. We are going to be not showing you guys in the audience, but we're going to record this for all our YouTube fans who couldn't come and be present at this event. We'll put it up as a recorded video. So not for you guys to worry. I think it's just going to be a big me and whatever's and the slides behind me so visible. So first of all, thank you so much for joining our talk about our new book, Storefront NYC: Photographs of the City's Independent Shops, Past and Present. And I know some faces in the crowd I'm familiar with, so you probably know James and I's story and everything like that, but there's a lot of people who might not be familiar with our work. So first I'm just going to briefly discuss how we first came to document these amazing small businesses and what we hope to accomplish by sharing our photos and the stories behind them this evening. So for 25 years, both James and I, as Will mentioned, we're a married couple, and we live in the East Village, and we actually lived in the same studio apartment for almost this entire time that we've been documenting the storefronts. Yeah, actually, it's over 25 years in the same apartment. Gosh, time flies. So anyway, it's an interesting story of how we began to photograph these mom and pop stores, because we scoured the city from finding them from like little side streets, little hole-in-the-wall spots to huge neighborhood institutions. Many of you probably will recognize many that are in our book because they're kind of famous, been around for a while, and they're on big flashy avenues. But nearly half of the stores that we included in our book, sadly, are no longer in business. So it's split a little bit 50-50. I mean, and that's sadly in the time that it even took to compile the book, because I don't know how many of you guys have put a book together, but I guess we when we got the book deal, I guess you could call it, and started putting it together, it was like a year ago already. And in that short time frame, sadly, even more stores closed, some that we were really actually surprised about. But what happened was, we began to notice these mom and pop stores are closing, kind of in the face of modernization and conformity. And when we began to notice that they were closing, we said, wait a minute, the neighborhood somehow it's losing its unique appearance, its character, and the very reason why we love these different neighborhoods. Because New York is a city of neighborhoods. I mean, there's 5 boroughs. We cover every borough in the book. For tonight's discussion, because this is village preservation, we are going to limit our slideshow discussion to Greenwich Village and the East Village, because that's what village preservation is all about, helping preserve the character and uniqueness of East Village, yay, and Greenwich Village. But there are all 5 boroughs in the book. And for us, the neighborhood store has always been a foothold for new immigrants, like a familiar place where your native language is spoken, where there's food and culture present that you're familiar with, kind of like a friendly face to go to. And the shops to us are lifelines for the community. It's vital to all the residents who depend on them for a multitude of needs. And they really help set the pulse, the life, the texture of each neighborhood. And our journey began while photographing the streets for an entirely different project. In the 1990s, James and I were documenting street culture in and around New York City. And even though we live in the East Village and there was a lot of things happening at the time, it really wasn't our own neighborhood that we started taking these mom and pop photos. It was going into the outlying neighborhoods in Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens. I grew up in the Bronx and Kingsbridge. And I mean, sure, a lot of places that I remember from childhood are gone, but we never thought to take a photo of them. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes it's like you take for granted the places that you go to on a daily basis, and you kind of assume that they'll always be there, and until they're gone, and then of course it's too late. But for us, it was going back to these outlying neighborhoods, and we began to notice that despite the short time frame, because sometimes it would be just a few months between visits to a particular neighborhood, we noticed, wait a minute, what happened to that little mom and pop store? And this one and that one, wait, they're closing. Somehow the neighborhood didn't look the same anymore, it didn't feel the same anymore. The very reason why we were going to the neighborhood in the first place, to document its street culture and the surround, it was gone. So we said, you know what, let's just start taking these mom and pop, that's what we like to call them, mom and pop stores. Although they're not always like mom and dad that run them, that's just like a colloquial term that we like to use. Because we were attracted to their signage. Like you could see on Vesuvio, we love the window displays. To us, that's everything. Like when a store has a fabulous window display, like look at that bread. I mean, you just want to go in there. I mean, let alone the smell. That's a whole nother thing. I mean, that you're not going to see in a photo, but this bakery we'll talk about, it had an amazing smell wafting out onto the sidewalk. But also the neon signs. We're a big fan of neon signs. Some huge and overhanging. One of them we're going to talk about. Actually, I think there's 2 in our slideshow tonight. One of them is extra large. And we noticed that even if a store was still in business, somehow they would reface the store, or they remodel it, or they take down the old neon sign and they put up a brand new shiny plastic awning. And to that, we're just like, oh no, we don't like the shiny plastic awnings. We like the character of these older signs. And the whole neighborhood seemed to change when these left. And then, even though the project was very like visually oriented in the beginning, it was all about how the store looked. Like, people say to us, well, why did you take that photo? And remember, because this was in the 1990s, this was all 35 millimeter film. There was no digital camera back then, so it's not like, oh yeah, I have my phone. Oh, did you start hit record?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay. Always checking. Before, now you can always take a photo. There's really no excuse because everyone has a smartphone with them or something like that where they can, take a photo. But for us, it was bringing our 35 millimeter camera with us and having film for it. That's another thing. Sometimes we remember to take the camera, but then we didn't realize, oh, wait a minute, there's only one frame left, and okay. But the good thing is that we didn't use expensive film for this project at all. We used film that you could buy at your neighborhood candy store, which was really, people always ask us these technical questions and they think it was like really great, wonderful film, but no, it was Kodak Gold 400 that you could buy anyway. Oh, it's always 400 speed because that for us, you can, with 400 speed, if you're a, photographer, you can shoot in daylight, but you could also shoot in darker conditions as well. So we needed a film that could like run the gamut. Like we weren't going to just change roles just because okay the sun went behind a cloud or something like that. No, we had it covered. But we would go into the places themselves too. We didn't just take a photo. Early on in the project, even though it was all about how the place looked, we said, you know what, I want to find out why this store is still open where the store next door closed. Do they have a secret recipe? A secret sauce? Like what is their secret? Like what's the key to their longevity? So we'd go in and we'd ask the owner, I'd tell them, oh, I really love your store, it's so beautiful, can you tell us a little bit more about it? And oh my God, they were so happy that people were taking an interest in their store, asking them these pointed questions because really, I picked their brains. I would ask, how long have you been in business? Do you own the building? Like really personal stuff. And they were happy to share it with us. In fact, they were overjoyed. They would take out photos from shoeboxes saying, oh look, this is my great-great-grandfather when he first came here and he opened up this store with a few pennies in his pocket. Whatever the story was, it was like, we knew we had to keep on documenting them, but we weren't sharing them with anybody because this is like pre-internet. We were just keeping all the photos to ourselves and we were tucking them away in shoe boxes. Honestly, we had to rent a storage unit because we were getting so many photos. And then I was recording all the little interviews like with a little micro cassette recorder. I don't know if you remember, but there was like those tiny little cassette recorders. So they weren't like, it wasn't like I was bringing this big giant thing around, but I would be like, oh, I'm gonna record this just so I don't mess it up. Like, so I can listen to it later and then like write everything down because I'm kind of old school, even though we have computer and everything like that now. I still use a typewriter and I write everything by hand and then I like to type it up on my typewriter. I don't like, I do type into a computer, but I like to type it first. For some reason, I don't know. I grew up taking typewriter. Typing class was mandatory in New York public schools. And I had to learn. I wasn't that great a typist. I don't think I ever went more than 60 words a minute, but enough to get by.
Right, so initially, I figured if I just stood here, it would get awkward.
Right.
No, initially the project was purely aesthetically driven.
Right.
Then when we went inside and did the interviews, we shifted from like a casual, we'll shoot these where we want, to really, really working on the project. Because the sense of pride that came through in what Karla would get out of him in an interview really caused us to say, hey, we got to do this.
Right, and people always ask us, oh, as a husband and wife team, like what do you guys do? Like, do you both take the photos? And the answer is definitely yes. For daytime photos, it could be either one of us. For nighttime photos, which this book doesn't have any nighttime photos, but we've done other book projects where we photograph businesses at night, Because it's a longer exposure, and we usually have to bring a tripod, then James is usually the one that takes the night photography just because he's taller. I mean, I'm tall, but not as tall as James, and we have a really big tripod, and that way we can get over obstructions like parked cars and things like that, and he can see like the camera mounted even higher than I can. So
It's heavy and it's a pain in the neck.
that's partly the reason. But as far as the interviews, you can see I'm the talkative one, and no surprise there. I'm the one that usually conducted the interviews. So that's how we like kind of broke up the workload. And yeah, so let's get started talking about our first slide here. Well, really, Vesuvio was kind of our first slide. So Hector's Cafe, very close to here. This is on Little West 12th Street in the Meatpacking District, which people are like, oh, the Meatpacking District, is that part of Greenwich Village? And yes, it is. People think that, like, okay, that's just an area, a neighborhood unto itself, but just like the Lower East Side encompasses many different neighborhoods, Greenwich Village also encompasses different neighborhoods. Like you could break up Greenwich Village into Greenwich Village proper and the West Village, but this is, you know, what the, I guess, the developers like call the Meatpacking District now. I don't even know, what are they calling it now? They probably changed the name. Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Something even, you know,
Slicker.
right, slicker, nothing to do with meat. Now, Hector's is, primarily for tonight, we did focus on businesses that you can visit today. Because honestly, the whole point of this project, for us, because it was a very personal project, not sharing with anybody, but when we decided to finally share them, it was because we wanted to like give back to the community and just like kind of say thanks to like all the stores that helped us and made our lives special, to just give them a little boost and just say, okay, we can put up their photo now on our social media and maybe people will go there. And honestly, they need your business. That's the number one reason for our store to remain in business, is it needs customers. So most of the slides that we're going to talk about tonight are places that are still open. And Hector's Cafe and Diner is an amazing, amazing diner. It's been in business since 1949. And as you see, it's very unusual, the building. It's like tucked away underneath the High Line, which used to be the old rail line, which is now the you know, the upscale park that, which is really beautiful and nice, but it brings a lot of tourists to the neighborhood. And then, of course, the Whitney Museum is nearby as well. And it's just like this little place that maybe a lot of people don't even realize like what's going on there, because it doesn't have like a flashy big sign, and you know, it just kind of tucked away underneath the High Line, and across the street are your, you know, boutique clothing businesses and other restaurants, because it kind of went upscale, the whole neighborhood. But the current owner, Danny Manassas, has owned it since 1987. And he told us something really interesting that we didn't know. I said to him, you know, do you own the building here? Like, how are you, you know, surviving? Been there since 1949. And he told us that it's actually a co-op that the city owns, and he's a cooperative owner with the adjacent meatpacking business, which is Weichel's beef company, which is where he gets all the meat for all his delicious burgers and other things. Any meat products that he sells there, he gets from Weichel's, and they have a below market rent. And the reason they have this below market rent rate is because they struck a deal. The city decided that, okay, we're going to give part of the property for the Whitney Museum, so they could build, you know, part of their Whitney in the same cooperative building. And you guys get to stay here until 2032 at this below market rate. So we don't know what's going to happen after 2032, but we hope that it's renegotiated, but they're fine at least until then. So that's the key to their survival. A lot of people think, oh, automatically when they see a business that's been in business for many years, they think that the person owns the building. Don't ever assume that, because it might be so, but it might not be. With them, it's a very, very, very unique situation. But really, to us, what keeps it in business is amazing food. I mean, we love, you step in there and they've modernized, like when you go in, it doesn't look the same way it did back in 1949, but they still have their stool seating, like where you can, watch the short order cook. And then they do some of their cooking in the back, but you can still see them doing some of the stuff in front of you. And then they have regular sit-down seating. But what we like, because we have a dog, is they have outdoor seating. And you can't see it in this photo because I guess this was taken probably in the maybe it was like late. They're still green in the highline, so maybe it was around this time, around October. Maybe it was too cold and they had brought it in, or maybe it was before they started putting the outdoor seating. I'm not really sure, but right now they have a couple of tables that they put right on the side over there, and they're really super sweet. The owner and the staff are really nice, and the hamburger deluxe. Extra good. It's said that Martin Scorsese used Hector's as a set when he was filming Taxi Driver. So, if you watch that movie again, see if you recognize it. All right, next slide. We're going in to the East Village. And now, I hope I'm not making you guys hungry for dinner. B&H Dairy is on 2nd Avenue by St. Mark's Place. And as you can see, B&H Dairy Lunch. And you're like, dairy, why would a business call themselves Dairy Lunch? What is that? Well, it was founded in 1938 by Jewish immigrants, and their names were Berkson and Heller. So they took the first initial of their last names, and that's where B and H got that's hence the name. Now, it's not owned by Jewish immigrants anymore. In a I think it's kind of ironic twist of fate. It's owned by an Egyptian Muslim named Fawzi Abdallah and his lovely wife, who is a Polish immigrant, Catholic, and yes, and they have owned it. Fawzi bought it in 2003, and Ola came on board in 2005. I mean, actually, they have a really cute story how they met, because Ola used to be the waitress across the street. Directly across the street was another fabulous spot that's in our book, but we're not going to talk about it tonight, but you might remember it, Stage Restaurant. Yeah. It's next to the old Orpheum Theater where, Stomp used to be playing, until now it's some Empire Strikes Back thing, whatever it is. But it's actually a great theater. It used to be an old vaudeville theater. And it supposedly has the oldest working neon sign in all of New York City, the one that says Orpheum. But Ola was working there, and she met Fawzi across the street, and that's it. It was a true love story. And it is a kosher dairy restaurant, because when those two Jewish immigrants founded it, they had it kosher certified, and to this day, it's still kosher certified, even though it's not Jewish people at all that run it, but they learned the recipes and how to make everything. They make their own challah bread by hand every single day. They serve it, like when you get a soup, they give you the challah bread, and it's amazing. They also make great soups with love. I mean, Ola is Polish, so she kind of added her own touch to some of the recipes. Like, she makes borscht, and she just makes it without meat, because she said, well, in Poland, I used to put meat in all our borscht, but we're vegetarian here, and that's because Jewish dietary laws forbid, when you're kosher, that you can't serve dairy and meat together. So if you're going to have meat, that's what's served like in a delicatessen. Think Katz's delicatessen. I mean, that happens to be in our book as well, but we're not going to talk about that tonight because, we're limiting it to Greenwich Village and East Village. But the dairy place is where there will be, cheese, and she has white fish sandwiches, so you can get that kind of food there. No meat ever thing. And the cool thing is that now it stands for better health. So it kind of you know, they add the better health later. So that's there, because people don't know Berkson and Hell, who are these people? We'll call it B&H for better health, because it's vegetarian. And now that the neighborhood has changed, like it's gentrified, and you know, it used to have a huge Jewish population, but now it has a big population of college students. NYU, New School, there's Cooper Union nearby. I mean, they all have dormitories. They own, I mean, NYU bought a lot of buildings in the neighborhood. And they attract like a whole, I guess you can call it a whole gamut of a range of old customers coming back from the olden times that like grew up going there, and then young people too appreciate that it's a vegetarian restaurant. And I mean, personal favorites, I would say they're challah French toast for breakfast. Well, you could have it for dinner too, because they'll make it for you. And what would you say, James, for breakfast?
So
What
I
do you
make
like?
a nice mushroom barley soup.
Oh yeah, but for breakfast, what's your favorite?
Oh, she makes me scrambled eggs.
Oh yeah, but the omelet, right?
Yeah.
And blintzes. Oh, I can't forget the blintzes. Amazing blintzes. Blueberry with farmer's cheese, extra, extra, extra good. So
We were filming a YouTube video in there for us eating brunch there, and it's the kind of place, it's like, I don't know if you've been in there. If you haven't, it's like a narrow little
right, it's very
hallway
yeah,
with
you can't
stools in
see.
it,
Yeah, you can't see
and
the
a counter, and then where the guys work. And
Yeah,
there's
not
like one
much
or two
seating.
tables way in back.
Yeah.
And everyone shouts to each other and talks to each other the whole time. So it's like having like 7 or 8 Karlas in there. And someone watching the video is like, this is the most New York conversation I've ever experienced. Everyone's saying something different and across and continuing and finishing sentences. And Ola's like loud like Karla. And
Right, she is, and she's super, I mean, a
they named
sweet
sandwiches after some of the regulars.
Yeah, they have like these special sandwiches, and I think that's what I was doing when we were filming the YouTube video. I was going, like I was running along the back wall where they have all these named sandwiches. Not running, but like making the camera run along it. And then I was pointing them out, and then a guy there was like, "Oh yeah, that was named after me. That's my sandwich." And it was just, it was a quintessential moment. But it's a fabulous place. Ola is so sweet. I mean, she's told people that while we're there, don't worry if you know, you're a little bit short.
Yeah.
You can, you know, you'll pay me back next time. You know, that's the kind of person she is. And they really struggled. I mean, they had a lot of difficult times. And I have to say that you know, they were broken into during the pandemic. Somebody even stole, broke the window, took the cash register. I mean, all this unfortunate stuff, but she doesn't let it dampen her spirit. She just keeps on going, and she really, really loves her customers. And the rabbi comes in once a week just to make sure and check on things and make sure the certification is up to par. So it really is, I mean, amazing. Yeah, I think there's another way of supporting it.
During the pandemic, they had a little card table out front, and it was heartbreaking to see.
Yeah,
because they couldn't be open, and they're out front with T-shirts.
Yeah, so I mean, that's anytime like we do events, we like to kind of like wear some of the you know, merchandise, because we say to people, even if you can't eat there, you know, for whatever reason, maybe you're on a restricted diet, or maybe you're just not hungry, you can help them by getting a T-shirt or something like that. So yeah, yay for pierogies, borscht, blintzes, everything, you name it, but no meat. Don't ask for burgers there. So next slide. Okay, so we're taking you off of food because I think we'll need a little break from the food, and we're going to talk about Bigelow pharmacies. Now, Bigelow, this is one of the ones when I was saying, a lot of these businesses have these amazing neon signs. Bigelow is one of those businesses. As you see, established 1838. It's actually the oldest apothecary in America. In fact, it's so old that it once sold leeches and opium as remedies. And the building is gorgeous. As you could see, like we included in the photograph, the architecture of the building. You could see all that trim, and you could see Bigelow building. Now, when you see this, you automatically would assume that they own the building, because look, it's got the Bigelow name on it. But no, they don't. I'm going to tell you about the owners, because they're super, super nice. And it's Ian Ginsberg and his son, who is a registered pharmacist, who took over the business. And interestingly, it's been handed down from like pharmacist to pharmacist. There was a Mr. Bigelow way back when, but Ian Ginsberg worked there as a young boy. His father was the pharmacist who ended up purchasing the business from the former pharmacist that was there. And now, even though Ian isn't a pharmacist himself, his son became a pharmacist and works alongside him. So it's third and fourth generation in the Ginsberg family. And Ian told us that he's been working there since he was so young that he used to stand and fill little jelly cups behind a soda fountain counter. Now, if you remember, mom and pop pharmacies, and even like the chain ones, like Woolworths, back in the day, pharmacies had a soda fountain that you would go to get your prescriptions filled, and you could sit there with your family and wait for the prescription to be filled, and you can get an egg cream or malted milk or whatever it was. And Bigelow kept their original soda fountain. They don't serve soda anymore, but they use it as their cosmetics counter. So if you happen to go inside, first of all, look for the tile floor when you go in, inlaid in the tile, because it's beautiful inlaid tile. Is Bigelow Pharmacy written in the tile, but look for that. It's front and center, so you can't miss it. They're a wonderful cosmetics counter. Now, they have beautiful, it's like a museum inside, in that lining the sides of the interior are these big, what would you call them, the Putnam, is that the name of the company? I think that used to be based in New York, Putnam rolling ladders that used to, like, if you had, right. And used to have like a big loft or something like that. Gosh, I wish that I could have a huge wall for books. But one of those rolling ladders, and you can see them in old-time libraries as well. I think, do they have one at the one in the East Village? Is there
Ottendorfer?
Yeah, and Ottendorfer. I think they might have remnants. They did. Now maybe not anymore. Yeah. So. Anyway, they have all these old tiny little remedies up there, all the glass jars and things like that containing all their old potions and lotions. Now, a lot of the formulas that they still sell there today, because they have their own cold creams, hand creams, and different things that they sell there, were formulated in the 1880s, including, my personal favorite is their lemon body cream, which has real lemon extract in it, and it's like skin brightening, and it's super fabulous. It has an amazing smell, but there's no chemicals. It's all natural ingredients, and they're all formulated back in the 1800s. And they have like the recipe books for them, and they put it on the stand, but we always look around the whole rim of the store, because they have all these little flasks with all their different potions that I love. And also look for the cat named Allegra, because Ian Ginsberg, the third generation owner, has an allergy to cats. So he named his cat Allegra. I know, that was so cute. They not only formulate prescriptions for children, like they'll custom flavor them, but for dogs and cats as well. You can bring your dog in there. We bring our dog Hudson in there. They'll give him treats, but like if you need say your dog's like our dog, he won't swallow a pill. You have to, if you flavor it, that's better, because then he'll not spit it out. I have to go to extreme lengths, try to wrap it in cheese or hide it in butter, all this kind of stuff. But they do formulate special prescriptions for children and for dogs and animals. So it's really like experience unlike going into your chain drugstore. When you go to a chain drugstore, you're directed, like if you ask somebody, if there's somebody to ask, where are the Band-Aids, aisle 3. It's not like that at Bigelow. It's all about personalized service. You go in there and they'll say hello. If you're a customer that's been there before, they'll probably remember your name. but it's like, how can I help you? What are you shopping here today? Oh, can I recommend this? And it's not like you're just left alone, go to an aisle and like fend for yourself. You're really given the help and attention, which,
It's wonderful.
yeah, I mean, honestly, you can't beat it. So it's amazing store. And we love that their big neon sign. You could see, it's because we shot it straight on, that big thing in the center. You could see it from either side. They just recently had their scaffolding taken down, but it was scaffolded for a while, but it's back and visible now. It looks extra good. Oh yes, Mark Twain. You can, if you're lucky enough, and Ian happens to be there, asked to see the purchase receipt from Mark Twain that they kept from over the years. They had many famous customers, and one of them being Mark Twain, and they have his little receipts from all the different medicines he got there. And it said that Thomas Edison had special salve they made for him when he burned his hands when he was like, you know, developing the light bulb, and they made it for him. So I don't know if they still sell that salve, but I stand by their lemon vodka. Next slide. Back to food. Cafe Reggio. We love Cafe Reggio. It's been in business since 1927, and this is one of the photos that people that are familiar with our work, we have other books on the subject of mom and pop storefronts. And Cafe Reggio is one of the photos that we included in our previous books. However, for this book, we made, even if we have some of the photos of places still in business, we would go back and re-photograph them to what they look like today. Because when we took the photo of Cafe Reggio for our first book, it was like in the early 2000s, and it was, they updated their awning a little bit, and they put those, Cafe Reggio signs to just like, do a little bit with the outdoor seating, keep it separate and safer for passerbys on the sidewalk. But we did update the photos. So that's because people say, oh, is it all the same photos? No, there's new photos, like Hector's Cafe was a previously unfinished, unpublished photo. And that never put it in any book. B&H Dairy also, it was part of a long panorama, but we had, it's updated as well. So this is one of the ones that we updated. Now, Cafe Reggio is well known because it is your quintessential cafe. You go in there and it's like stepping back in time. It has an original cappuccino machine that Mr. Parisi, because that's who founded it, Domenico Parisi, he took his life savings of $1,000 and he took from Italy, he had it brought over on a ship, this gorgeous bronze cappuccino maker that has dragons on the bottom, this big angel on the top, and that was the centerpiece of the store. He used it to make all his own cappuccino and espresso, because that's when they first opened, they didn't have any food or anything like that. It was just cappuccino and espresso. And the machine itself was made in 1902, and it makes this cup of espresso in 3 seconds, which was like super fast. I mean, now they don't use it anymore, but go inside and it's in a place of honor against the wall, and you can see it. It's so gorgeous and so beautiful. Now they use, more modern machinery, I guess, up to health codes and stuff like that, because they probably wouldn't let, with health inspections and stuff, they probably wouldn't want this big, giant, older machine to be used anymore. But the family sold it to, let me get this right, sometimes I have my little notes, Hilda and Miso Cavalici, and their son Fabrizio now runs the cafe. But they kept all of these beautiful oil paintings inside, and it's just like you really feel like, you sit there and you can think of all the famous people that have been there over the years, including Bob Dylan was a big fan, often was spotted there. And to this day, Patti Smith goes there from time to time. I know she loves the cafe. And you can just go in there and have a espresso and sit for a while. It's not like some of these places you go in and you feel like they hover over you, like, okay, are you done? Like skedaddle. You know, you can just read a book in there and sit in the corner, and that's what I really appreciate about the place, because I feel like that's what a coffee shop should be all about. And for us, like coffee shops, I guess in particular, they're like kind of community centers. And to us, these mom and pop stores, they act often as community centers, and they really give back. Like it's a place like where you can, you know, say hi to a neighbor, find out what's going on. And they did suffer during the pandemic. I mean, I think they closed for a little while, but they reopened. I mean, they tried to do everything, you know, outdoors at first and not have their indoors. But they're wonderful business and just so sweet. They have a big outdoor area now too. I mean, there would be next to impossible really to get this photo because they constructed because of the pandemic an additional kind of semi-enclosed place where you can go, which is great for us because again we have our doggy and we can go there. Yes. What did you have just recently that you loved?
Eggs Neapolitano.
Ah, yes. It was like a
It was good.
poached egg.
Yeah, with like 3 cheeses.
Yeah, it was really
nice.
really good.
And they make a nice tomato soup.
Oh yes, their tomato soup is very good. And they have desserts too, like nice tiramisu and everything like that.
What did you have?
I had French toast
Oh,
again. You can see I'm a breakfast person. I have breakfast for dinner. And I love, I have a sweet tooth, so that's why I got pancakes, French toast, the usual. I think that one had fresh fruit. Remember, it was fresh strawberries and bananas.
Lots of syrup.
Yes, lots of syrup. I gave my bananas to my dog though, because he loves bananas. Next, I think we're still in food. Oh no, okay, I just gave you a break from food. House of Oldies. House of Oldies was in business from 1969 until recently. Sadly, it closed during the pandemic in 2020. I think their official closing date might not have been until 2021, but they never really reopened once they were forced to close during the pandemic. The owner, Bob Abramson, was a really amazing guy because we're vinyl collectors. I mean, just like we use a film camera, we love records. We have a big vinyl collection. And Bob was pretty unique because this store sold only vinyl records. You could see no CDs, no tapes, just records. Bob put up that sign, and if you knew Bob, you'd be like, oh my God. He would tell us that people would constantly come in over the years looking, you know, once one first tapes came out, and then cassettes, and then finally CDs. He was just like, oh, I'm tired of people asking for anything on, it's just records. So he put that up. And anything you got in that store was mint. And that's because Bob, oh, I'll have a sip of water, thank you. Bob, what he did is he would go around to all the neighboring record stores that were closing, and he would buy their inventory, so new records. It was never about selling used records here. If they were used, they were like unplayed, they were mint condition. It was all about new records. And a lot of them still had like their original wrapping on, like nobody had ever like unsealed them. So people complain like, oh wow, you know, Bob's prices are a little steep, but that's because everything he sold was mint, a lot of first pressings, because he would buy them from record stores when they were going out of business. And he had this huge basement, because the store was really tiny and narrow.
It was like floor to ceiling.
Right, floor to ceiling, but he had this basement where he kept everything, all this inventory. And he sold like 1950s to 1990s music. So you wouldn't go in there for like a new release or anything like that, but like if you were looking for, you know, old Led Zeppelin or Rolling Stones.
He knew exactly where everything was.
And 45s.
We asked him at the time what was his most, you know, expensive record in the store right now.
Right.
You know, it was an Elvis Presley like first album, Sealed.
Right,
And
Sealed.
it was like $1,500.
Right, yeah, I mean, and he just like, you name it, like if it was from the 50s to the 90s, he had it, and he had it in perfect condition. and people would be like, oh, where's the, the record player? Well, you didn't need to play anything because everything was sealed and it was knit, so you didn't have to worry about it skipping. I mean, he did have one in the back like that, like if he had something open, like he had a bunch of 45s and you weren't familiar with a song, you could familiarize yourself with it. But really it was more about like people that knew what they wanted.
Exactly.
And they were just looking for, something special for their collection, or, for us, I mean, I hate to say it, we had first pressings, but they're worth less because we always open them when we play them. And we're collectors, but we're more listeners than anything else. That's more important to us. But we understand, some people just like to frame it and put it up on their wall, which is, he had it. But sadly, like I said, he had to close. And if you are interested, I know that because we put up his photo on our Instagram, it's at James and Karla, by the way. His daughter contacted us and said, oh, he's still selling his collection online. If anybody, ever asks you, tell them, he still has it. He just brought it back to his home, and, he has it. It just, now you have to, instead of going to the store, you have to just do it through the internet.
It was interesting because we had thought it was mostly his customers would be like my age, our age.
Right, that's what we thought.
He said, no, it's not. It's like 15-year-olds now coming in and searching out these Rolling Stones albums and stuff, and that was really great to hear.
Yeah, because when we first found the place, it was like there was hardly anybody ever in there, because I guess it was like the time where people stopped collecting vinyl and they were really more into CDs especially. And then I guess around maybe 2010 or so, we were talking to him and we're like, oh, how's business? And he's like, business is great. And I'm like, well, oh, why? And he's like, oh, it's all these kids. They're buying up, all these expensive albums. And I'm like, you're kidding. I'm like, how do they have the money? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, all right, good for them.
Right.
I mean, I guess maybe their parents were, turning them on to vinyl, and they realized like that it's the quality is amazing versus some of the CDs are like,
Right.
I mean, we still listen to CDs like when we're doing like some photography work, and we don't want to just change the record or something like that. But for really listening, we like our vinyl.
Right. And then the iPod was going to kill vinyl, and now the iPod's going and vinyl's better.
Right. Yeah, I think this year, they announced that vinyl records outsold CDs this year for the first time in a long time. So yeah, vinyl is back. So next slide. Oh, back to food. Getting you hungry again. Now, this is Veselka, and Veselka is very important to village preservation because the second generation owner, Tom Bouchard, is a member of village preservation, and I think on the board, right, as well. And Veselka is a very interesting story. Was founded in 1954, and Tom Bouchard and his son Jason, the third generation owner that's running the business now, they're not Ukrainian, even though this is a Ukrainian soul food diner. Well, Tom isn't Ukrainian. You could say Jason is part Ukrainian, because the interesting story is Tom was in college in New Jersey at the time that he met the founder's daughter. This was founded by Vladimir Domashel, who is a man from the Ukraine, and he just had this place called Veselka, which means rainbow in Ukrainian, and at the time it was not a food business. It was a newsstand. It was, like your typical newsstand that had the old Coca-Cola sign, and he sold newspapers and candy and like little toys. Like you could get those little, what were the little balls called? The Spaldings.
Spaldings.
For
stickball.
Spaldings.
That's what it is, stickball.
For stickball.
Pinkies.
Stuff like that. They had pay phones in the back, but
it was a hangout.
It was kind of like your neighborhood hangout newsstand, and to make extra money, while he was dating Vladimir Damoshel's daughter, he started working at Veselka, just helping out his future father-in-law. And sadly, Vladimir died very suddenly. I believe he had a heart attack. And Tom Bouchard was kind of left with the business because there was no one else that was working there. It was just him and the father-in-law. And he was faced with this decision in the 1970s, what do I do? Now they're leaving me, they're giving me this business, but it's not doing well. And, basically we're in debt. And what do I do? He loved the food that Vladimir would have these cronies, as he put it, from the neighborhood, and their babushkas, the grandmas, come in and make pierogies and borscht and stuffed cabbage for them while they were, just selling their newspapers, and they would all hang out eating, all the neighborhood guys. And he fell in love with the food, and he's like, you know what? The food that they would sell there, but not really sell. It was more okay, if you're hanging around, yeah, give us $1 and she'll make some pierogies for you or something like that in the kitchen in the back. He said, let me concentrate on food. And he took all the money that he had saved and he tore up the place. He took the payphones out of the back and he put some tables, and he started serving the food. He hired some more babushkas from the neighborhood, and it was doing well. Mimi Sheridan came in, and she was the food critic for the New York Times, and she gave it a great review, and that put the place on the map. And that was the key to the business. It was him realizing that food had a special place in his heart because he was a Ukrainian, but now he became an adopted Ukrainian. And he said that was the key to the survival. People think that because it's been in business since 1954 that they own the building. This is another instance where they do not own the building. But Tom Bouchard told us, I'm like, well, who owns the building if you guys don't? He's like, oh, the Boy Scouts, the Ukrainian Boy Scouts. I'm like, what do you mean? These little boys in little green outfits, they're 10 years old, they own this whole building? He's like, no, the Ukrainian Boy Scouts isn't despite the name, is really old-timer organization that they, it's like a Ukrainian, I guess you could call...
once you're in it forever.
Right, a community hall. And they're the ones who own the building. And my father-in-law had been a member of this Ukrainian Boy Scouts, and he made a deal with them that we could stay and, just pay a decent rent and have the store because he was so involved in it. And I mean, to this day, thank God, their arrangement is still holding. In fact, they're actually expanding because there was a beautiful little, Pam owned a beautiful place called Dinosaur Hill. It was a little toy store for children, really lovely, around the corner. So you go around the corner there. And she closed her store, and they're expanding into that because they're doing so well now. They struggled during the pandemic, but they make and sell 3,000 pierogies a day and 3,000 potato pancakes every week, 5,200 gallons of borscht a year. They now employ 4 full-time women to make pierogies every single day. And they do it in their basement. We've seen them. We've actually,
it's like a war room.
Filmed it for our YouTube channel. It's amazing. I mean, I tried to make them.
Pots boiling.
I mean, these women, they just do it so fast, and and I tried it, and the pierogi came apart in the boiling water. I didn't pinch it, the right way. But they have, their pierogies are amazing, and they have vegetarian options too. But I'm a big fan of their short rib filled one, extra good, and they get their meat from a mom and pop butcher shop, which is in our book, which was a Ukrainian butcher called East Village Meat Market, was Basinski's Meat Market. And they also get, they have a sausage, they get their homemade kielbasa is from the Basinski's Meat Market too. So you can get kielbasa and eggs dish, really extra good. But Jason, now the third generation owner, is on the team, and I think his son and daughter are also in the business. So it's a real family-owned business, and it's just your quintessential, I guess you could call it like really an American dream, that they were.
They support
still
the
there.
neighborhood, they do a tremendous job.
Yeah, they really, really do. They give back to the neighborhood.
Any event or anything, they're always there.
Yeah, in fact, we watched free concerts in the park.
Yeah,
They
they're
call
sponsored.
it Abe Leibowald Park. Sadly, the founder of Second Avenue Deli, which the original Second Avenue Deli is included, our photos included in this book. When he was murdered, they're still looking for his, the people who murdered him. But they named the park across the street, Abe Leibowald Park. They had these free concert series.
Yeah, it's nice.
And they donated brownies for the concert series, so that was really nice little refreshment afterwards. So next slide. Facos, okay. I never know if I say it right. Facos. I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's on Bleecker Street, and it was founded in 1900 by Eduardo Faco. And when we went, it's now being run by the fourth generation co-owners, Louis and Eddie Faco. And they still specialize in pork sausage. Now you can see into Italian specialties, but it didn't start out as Italian specialties. It started out as a pork sausage store. And when we spoke with Louis, I said to him, I was like, Louis, wow, 1900, when your family came here from Italy, did they have a pork sausage store in Italy? Because I figured, wow, that's their specialty is they must have been, they must have had a successful store in Italy and then just opened up a store when they immigrated here. He's like, oh no, they didn't have a pork sausage store. They didn't, they knew how to make sausage, but that wasn't their thing at all. And I was like, well, how in the world did they start in this business? And he's like, well, you're not going to believe this story. And I'm like, oh, I'm ready. He's like, well, my great-grandfather, or is it great-great-grandfather? Let me make sure. Great-grandfather, I got it right. Great-grandfather, when he came here from Naples, he went to a pork sausage place in the Lower East Side. And he bought a sausage because he wanted a little taste of home. And when he got home to have it, he found a splinter in it. And the way Louis says it, he's like, oh, Marone. This was like, I mean, it was like a cardinal sin happened before his eyes. He was so angry that his great-grandfather marched back to the store, started yelling at the owner, you don't know how to make sausage. Look at this, look what I found in here. This is inexcusable.
You said steam was coming out of his ears.
He's like, you know what? This is garbage. Yeah, I'm going to open up a sausage store and I'm going to put you out of business. Yeah, just mark my words. And that's what he did. He knew how to make pork sausages because, I guess back in Naples, everybody had a farm and you would have a pig on your farm and you would learn to make sausage.
Like nose to tail.
Right, it was true nose to tail. I mean, they didn't have a lot of money, he said, but you'd use every part of the pig, so you'd know how to make your own sausage. And he just opened up his own store. It wasn't originally on Bleecker Street. And he literally put that guy out of business. So he said the business was started by spite. I was like, oh my God, this is a perfect story. I'm like, I can just picture myself there. And they still make homemade pork sausage. That's their specialty, but they also have a lot of other things to offer in there. But go there for their fresh sausages because they make them on the premises every single day. Now they have another store in Brooklyn where they do the dried sausage, like their cured meats because it needs to cure for a long time. And they have a bigger space in their store in Brooklyn. It's like a Bensonhurst. But in there, you walk in and there's everything for an Italian meal. You can get your canned tomatoes, you can see them in the window. They have prepared food. But my personal hack, to say, if you're just going by there, is to get a sandwich. You can get a sandwich. It's big enough to share between the two of us. And And even if you're not a meat eater, because you can get ones, you know, with sausage or sliced prosciutto, you can just get their homemade mozzarella, because they make their own homemade mozzarella as well. And you can get that slice with some tomato, and they put some balsamic vinaigrette, olive oil, and
Sun-dried tomatoes.
sun-dried tomatoes on there. It's really, really, really good.
So hungry.
Yeah. See? And when I asked Louis, I said, okay, this is great about the story with your great grandfather, but how do you guys stay in business from 1900? What's your specialty? You know, what's your secret with your sausages? And he's like, you know what? Making sausages is the big ingredients as far as a fresh sausage are very, very, very simple. It's just salt, pepper, and your pork shoulder. He's like, but the secret to our pork sausage is that we bone and trim the meat by hand, and we select everything in person. Like, we don't send somebody else. Like, a family member goes and picks out their, you know, the pig that they're going to use to make their pork sausage, and they really like get a feel for it. He's like, it's that attention to detail, he said, and also TLC, tendon love.
Like other places pay a person to go and get their meat for them, and they're like, no way.
Right, or they'll use a purveyor, like just that supplies them with all the meat. So like, you don't get to select, it's selected by a third party, will bring it and then they deliver it to you. But they go and they select everything by hand, and then they hand trim it. And he said, yeah, that's the secret. They also told us that they own the building. Bleecker Street has gotten super expensive. I mean, they're not like all the way west. All the way west, Bleecker Street, there used to be all these great, like there was a little bird store, like, you know, selling live birds. There was like antique stores and all these
Used
fun,
clothes.
quirky little stores. They've sadly been replaced by many boutique clothing, places. And Louis said if it wasn't for their great grandfather, who, you know, initially didn't have the store on Bleecker Street, but soon thereafterwards, after he put the guy out of business in the Lower East Side and moved to Greenwich Village, he said he purchased the building that they're located in. He said otherwise there's no way that they would be able to afford to stay there with the kind of rents that are going on Bleecker Street. So another great business that you can visit today. And I think, do we have time for another
Just
one?
quick. Yeah, the last one quick.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Last one.
Okay. Now, so this is a place you can eat at, but it's also a place you can drink at. White Horse Tavern. We fell in love with that neon sign. You know, as big people that love neon signs, I'm like, look at that gorgeous sign. It's on blue porcelain enamel. Which is like, you know, if you're going to have a neon sign made these days, they do not make it on porcelain enamel. It's just, that is a lost art, and just it's too expensive to create. Now, when we took this photo and interviewed the owner, the owner's name was Eddie Brennan. He no longer owns the building or the business. I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about that. But he was an amazing guy because he really knew the neighborhood. He was a longshoreman, and we got to talking because my dad was a longshoreman, and they ended up, I found it's such a small world that they ended up knowing one another from working on the docks on the west side before I was even born. Then what happened was all the docks on the west side closed, and my father had to go to Port of Newark for work, but that's a whole nother story in itself. But this was a seaman's bar, because at the time it really wasn't, by the way, I'll tell you where it is. It's on, what is that, West? Hudson at West 10th, is that 10th, I think? 11th, okay. So it's not too far from the Hudson River. And it really was a seafaring bar. It was a working man's bar. So Eddie took it over, but he preserved the interior from the original interior. When you look at it from the outside, you could see these little white horses in the windows. Those were, Eddie told us, those were transom windows. And at the time, in the 1800s, it was a very, I guess you could call it state-of-the-art air conditioning. Because you would tilt open the window, and then the breeze, because they were on a
Yeah,
corner.
little horse panels tilted
Right, the
up.
breeze comes in, from the river, and it would cool the place off. And I was just like, wow, the attention to detail. You go in there, and the light fixtures also have the white horse. And what Eddie told us was that at the time, when you wanted to open up a bar, because originally it was a blacksmith shop, so that's like the ground floor space. Now, first of all, it's one of the few wood frame structures left in New York City. It's a wood frame building. Dates back to 1880. The business. The building, I'm not sure. I guess it obviously would have been built before then. I'm not exactly sure of the date, but you can definitely look that up because it's in the Greenwich Village Historic District, so it is a landmark building. And it's that wood frame is just amazing. But inside, everything is this white horse motif. And Eddie told us, he's like, when you would open a bar in the 1800s, usually it was a purveyor of local liquor or beer that would end up paying for the fixtures, the bar, the everything, if you agreed to sell their product and not a competing product. So he's like, that's what I found. He's like, found old paperwork and stuff from the bar, that's how it got to be named White Horse, from like whatever alcohol was being served there. They paid for the whole thing, including the fixtures, the windows, the everything. In fact, the bar, he said, is 22 feet long, carved from a single piece of mahogany. And I mean, it's amazing. Now, Eddie really cared about the history of the bar, the history of the building. It's amazing how he even bought the building in the first place, because he was running the bar for a while, and he became kind of like the caretaker for the building, because at the time, an older woman, her name was Gertrude, let me see, I have her name, I know Gertrude. Sewell, and he used to like fix things for like people that lived in the apartments above. He would fix them for Gertrude because he was pretty handy himself. I guess just like a lot of old timers, like my dad too. Grew up in the Great Depression. Like he knew how to fix everything. Cars. Like he will fix it again kind of guy. I would never call a repairman. Like I can do it. And I mean, it might be, sort of shaky, but it kind of ended up working. But Eddie kind of was, I really like my dad in that way. He was very handy, and Gertrude really relied on him. And she's had this verbal agreement. She's like, you know what? I want you to have this building when I die. But she never put it in writing. It was just like a verbal kind of thing that she had said to him, just because he did so much for her to help her with the tenants that lived above the, White Horse Tavern. And lo and behold, she passed away, and her family, her sons, called up Eddie and said, you know what? Gertrude, her wish, she had let us know that she wants you to have the building, so we're gonna sell it to you. And he's like, that's fabulous, but Gertrude told me this, but I told her a million times, I can't buy the building, I don't have that kind of money. And they said, don't worry, you can finance it through us. I mean, who does that? He took his savings of $100,000, he gave it to her family, and then $900,000 was financed through her family, not a bank, because he said, I couldn't get a loan. He's like, there's no way I could get a loan for $1 million back in then, not as a bar owner. We were just scraping by. But the family, they agreed to have him pay it out over time, which I thought was just like an amazing story, because he just cared so much about the business and the building and its history that she wanted it to go into somebody that was going to treat it with the respect that she did. Sadly, he did sell it, but the new owners of White Horse Tavern, which is 8 and Sugarman, A lot of people were very nervous when he took over that he was going to strip all the, the history of it, including it's the last place where the Welshman, Dylan Thomas, had drinks at before he died. Said that he had 18 whiskeys at White Horse Tavern. Sadly, he was staying at the Chelsea Hotel at the time, so he left White Horse as the last place he drank at, and then he fell into a coma and he passed away. Eddie Brennan was contacted by the Dylan Thomas Society and dedicated the center room. Like there's actually, you go in there, there's a bar, and then there's a middle room, and then there's a kind of a back room. So the center room, the middle room, is the Dylan Thomas room, and has some oil paintings of Dylan Thomas and other memorabilia, and some famous photos of him taking there. I mean, a lot of other people have had drinks there too. Jack Kerouac and Annalise Nin, Bob Dylan, yes, also, yes, but Eddie Brennan.
And Prohibition didn't exist there.
Right. Eddie told us that the mayor at the time was Jimmy Walker, and Jimmy Walker lived nearby, and Jimmy Walker's father actually went to St. Veronica's, the school that's right around there, with Eddie Brennan's father, so they knew one another. So he knew that the place was open during Prohibition. He said that Jimmy Walker said, "Don't bother them. They can stay open," because that was like his drinking. So the rules didn't apply. They were one of the few bars that didn't have to like plaster up, soap up their windows and pretend that they were selling something else there. No, it was just business as usual. White Horse Tavern, drink away, Prohibition. So it's got a lot of history, and we love it, and we thankfully that the new owners preserve the history. The bar is still there, all the fixtures are still there. The only thing that's different is the prices. Yeah, it's a little pricey now. I think the burgers are like maybe $20-something, and a drink will set you back. It's not like Eddie's day where it was just a working man's bar. But I think they did a nice job, at least, keeping the flavor intact.
You can always go to Hector's.
Go there for a drink, look at the surround, and then get your burger at Hector's. That would be my recommendation. So, guys, first I want to say thank you for listening to all our stories behind these lovely photos. And really the takeaway that I would like to impart is, if you want to help a small business, go and be a customer. It doesn't matter whether they own the building or not own the building, because that's not the end all for saving a business. There's businesses that we photographed and included in this book, like there's a wonderful pastry place called the Roberti's in our own neighborhood in the East Village on First Avenue, and they own the building, but the family, they just kind of like the younger generation, they weren't sure whether they wanted to keep the business going, and it's long hours. Bakery, you got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to bake everything, at least, they ended up closing and they ended up selling it. I mean, it's a bagel store now, so at least it's not a bank or something like that. But,
weed shop.
Right, weed shop. Oh my God, there's so many of those. But that's the important thing. Be a customer, make a friend, because to us, there's nothing like, they know your name. They'll recognize you. You get this personal contact when you go in a store. I mean, I understand a lot of people do business online now, and they order things online. But to us, it's still nice to go inside a store, see a friendly face, and have like that little rapport with them. And oftentimes, prices are actually lower in a mom and pop business than what you will see online. Sometimes they'll grab you by like a promotion, but then like all the other things will be overpriced in comparison. But I mean, to us, they're just everything. They really make our neighborhood, East Village, Greenwich Village, like the beautiful place that it is. I mean, I can't. We walk around and we'll go by Times Square and we'll see people like, oh my God, I can't wait to go to, you know, like whatever, some chain and
Like Domino's.
or to get pizza. And I'm like, oh, I want to shake them. Like, no, what are you thinking? You're in New York. There's so many lovely pizzerias owned by individuals where you could get a far better pizza than anything that you could get at a chain store. No. But that's really the key to their survival. And there's just so many stories. We could go on and on forever. They're near and dear to our heart. But our book contains nearly 200 mom and pop businesses from all 5 boroughs, and we hope they'll be around for many more years to come. So,
Thanks.
yeah, thank you. Anybody have any questions for us? Yes.
Just in addition about Hector's, we finally went into Hector's a few months ago, and there's a picture of Al Pacino on the wall. And they said, yes, he comes there, he's there.
Oh, cool. Taxi driver.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, so then it's true. Anybody else? Yes.
So where do you go for pizza in the East Village?
That is an excellent question, and we have a new favorite. I'm happy to report, because people think, oh, you guys only photograph old businesses. No. We photograph anything. When an old business closes, we're sad, but we're happy if a new small business takes its place. And I want to tell you about a great pizzeria, Funzie's Pizzeria on St. Mark's Place between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. Just opened, the owner's name is Kevin Cox, just opened a few months ago and is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. He uses Funzie's, F-U-N-Z-I''S. We highlighted it, if you want to watch, we highlighted and we sat down for like over 2 hours.
Yeah, they have a little front porch.
For our YouTube channel, but I also put up a picture on our Instagram at James and Karla if you want to see. It looks fabulous from the outside because this is a guy who's, when he opened up his store, he thought about it, and that's what we really appreciate. When you think about like how a store is going to look, just don't put up a plastic awning that's not even affixed to your storefront. I mean, I understand when it's temporary and like that's, you know, until you get a real sign, but if you want to communicate to the neighborhood that you care and that you want to stay, if you can, if you have the money, because we realize signs are expensive, put in the effort, because he did, and he has this glorious sign. It's like a throwback to an old school pizzeria. The signage outside, the inside, it's like you walk into your grandma's like kitchen, and he's got it decorated with like old, like an old VCR tape and an old like a movie camera and like all this old Coca-Cola memorabilia, and he uses
But
like artisanal ingredients. Yeah, he really, it's high quality ingredients and made with chefs like from the industry. He hired chefs that work at some top pizza places. So yeah, that's a great pizza in Greenwich Village. I have to shout out, this is definitely one of our top 5 pizzerias in all of New York City, would be Bleecker Street Pizza. Excellent
No, for the
pizza.
Nana Maria.
The Nana Maria they're amazing. It's like a margarita pie, but even their regular pie, and very, very good prices as well.
And Vito's Slices and Ices.
Yeah, Vito's Slices and Ices is another one, but that's if you're gonna venture.
That's in Hell's Kitchen.
Right, it's in Hell's Kitchen. It's on 9th Avenue at the corner of 36th Street. So if you find your
stuck up
way,
there, it's
if you
nice.
find your way stuck at the Jacob Javits Convention Center, do not eat at Jacob Javits Convention Center.
You'll get $9 hot dogs.
Right. Bleh. Just take a little walk, get out of the convention center, get some air, get away from whatever's going
Yeah,
on
it's
in
family
there.
owned, it's really, they make their own
They make
juices.
their own Italian ices as
Yeah.
well in the summer months. But
You can get a lime Ricky.
another guy who made a beautiful storefront, paid attention to even the interior, used old Coca-Cola inside as well. That's our personal preference.
Andy's there, you know.
Right, he's there. The owner is there like every single
Makes a
day.
huge difference.
When we interviewed the owners, one of the keys that they would always say to us is, you know why our business is successful? Because either me or my husband, or my son, or my
family
daughter,
member.
or my cousin, or whatever, somebody from the family is present there every single day. And then that's the same for Veselka, for B&H Dairy. I mean, those places are good because the quality control is there because the owner is there. When the owner is there, then nobody's gonna goof off or do anything that, you know, that's their watchful eye, I guess you could kind of say. And it really, really makes a difference. I mean, plus, then you get to know them too, so we really appreciate it. But yeah, we do have our pizza preferences, and our dog is a pizza lover too, so.
So Bigelow's, I will attest to them being a very, very good customer service place. I was playing with Allegra one day and she accidentally scratched me and she drew some serious blood. So I'm bleeding in the middle of the floor and two people just ran over with a first aid kit and I just stood there with my hand out like this and they just patched me up. So,
Yeah, they're great.
and she's beautiful. She's a gorgeous cat. Just don't leave your hand out too much.
No, I mean, our dog Hudson has learned the hard way because he's tried to make friends with Allegra, and she, you know, would go up on the counter and she'd paw at him. But he still tries to make friends with her every time. I mean, he just doesn't learn his lesson. He's silly. He's just too friendly for his own good. Yes.
Staying on Bigelow, do you think they'll ever remove the gate that they put up in front of the windows? Which I just thought, I know it was a COVID thing, but like vandalism or whatever, but it's just such a beautiful building and they used to have really great windows and you'd see them when they were closed and I don't know, they're just...
I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, you know, like I was saying with the slideshow with B&H Dairy, they got their window broken during the pandemic, and it was very costly. I mean, she didn't. We helped her with a GoFundMe campaign. I was like, put up a call on our social media, on our Instagram, that they need help. They couldn't even pay for the glass. It was a couple of $1,000s, let alone the cash register and the damage that they did. I mean, you know. I'll ask Ian, and I'll try to find out. And you know, he knows that we love their window displays. To us, the window displays are everything, and they do. I mean, in the holidays, they always made a great window display. I'm looking forward to see their Christmas window display. It was great last year. Like they made like this little diorama of the parade and everything, like with the floats and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was Snoopy, right?
Yeah.
I think it was Snoopy in the window.
Minions.
Oh, it was the Minions. You're right. It was the Minions. Yeah, they had the Minions on the Brooklyn Bridge, like they, you know, like the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge. It was a really cute window display. But yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that's probably the reason. You know, there's a lot of. I mean, you know, we're very positive people, and we truly believe that even though there's a lot of empty storefronts in East Village, Greenwich Village, we realize that. We're residents, we walk around every day, we have a dog, so we were here during the whole pandemic, we never left. All we did was walk. You know, we saw firsthand what was going on. We're very positive. Like, I mean, I feel like things will come back. It might take a long time. More than probably we would want it to take, but I'm a true believer it will return. But I mean, safety is a concern, you know. I mean, I have to say in our own neighborhood, the East Village, you know, you have to, I mean, I feel like, okay, I'm the Bronx girl with the eyes in the back of my head, and I'm happy to have those eyes in the back of my head now. You know, you just have to be, I guess, smart about it. But yeah, I'll talk to Ian for sure.
I mean, at the very least, just pass along that people miss seeing it when they're closed for the night.
Definitely. And it brings in business because, you know, when you have a nice window display, people like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
As a coder, what you say about FICOs, they didn't close at all during the pandemic. What you could do was call, place an order, credit card, mask, and you pick it up. And the owner said to me, we didn't close during the first flu pandemic. We were going to stay open. And I thought, wow, that was so hard that you did because you said in every way.
Yeah, and it was nice because that way people could feel like a little bit normal, like have that taste of like their favorite food and feel comforted by that. So yeah, I mean, it was a difficult time. I mean, you know, we lost a lot of you know, Gem Spa was one of our favorites that closed during the pandemic. Sammy's Romanian, hopefully they're coming back. They're supposedly opening on Orchard Street, I'm not sure, but we're rooting for them, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Where is
Buy the book.
Where can you buy?
Oh, I mean, we have copies for sale today. If you want, we'll sign them for you. But any major, independent bookseller, we are always Strand definitely has them. Three Lives Bookstore, we went in to sign copies, but they were sold out, so they're supposed to call us to have more. But you can check; they might have gotten them in and just forgot to tell us to stop by. But we always like to support the small guys.
St. Mark's.
Right, Joe, the
Village
Village Works Gallery and Bookstore on St. Mark's Place. We have some of our photos up. We had an exhibition there. They kept part of the exhibition up, but we signed copies of the book as well there. They're $40, like $39.99. I mean, we round it up to an even 40 if you want to get it from us here, so we don't have to give you pennies in return. But there's definitely Village Works Gallery and Bookstore on St. Mark's has a bunch of copies we sold there.
McNally Jackson.
McDally Jackson, yes.
McNally Jackson.
Probably Risolia, I would imagine, as well. We haven't signed copies there, but I would imagine they would have it in stock as well.
And Chris Stein wrote it forward.
Yes.
I'm a big Blondie fan.
The co-founder of Blondie. Yeah, was nice enough to write the forward to our book as well.
And what about Mercer Books? Do they have copies?
Oh, Mercer, that's mostly a used bookstore, so I don't think he has any copies of anything new unless somebody got one and already sold them a copy. That would be that's a great bookstore, but it's really for used
I
books.
thought that they might feature it because.
Yeah, Village Works is a used bookstore as well, but we did an event with them and had an exhibition, so that he has.
I know
he has the
upstairs
books
in
in stock.
Strand, like in their New York area.
Yeah, definitely they have them in Strand.
Well, big round of applause.